Okay, welcome to our Bucky call for the weekend of January 25th, 26th. Uh, we're starting a new year, and I'm another year older. I had my birthday week this last week. I'm having my final birthday party tomorrow because it's been a huge birthday week. And yes, I am 21. Uh, and I'm finally of age. Now I don't have to sneak in a bar. I don't have to sneak into bars anymore. I'm finally there. So, um,
I wouldn't have carded you. I'll just say that.
yeah, actually, the I get carded in Utah. It's a requirement to be carded everywhere, and so I get carded all the time. And but I tell people that being my age, 79, is like being 20 years old. You just have to wait for a year before you're of age, right? Because 79 just is not quite as cool as 80. It just isn't as cool as 80. You know, Mick Jagger is 80. My goal is to be old like Mick Jagger. So there I go. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm feeling. We're studying um, angular topology, and we're on page 85 or 86 of, yeah, we're about to, and so I think we'll start with five and we'll review those 85 and we'll review those drawings and the caption underneath it, and then we'll head off to our original studies. So topology is an interesting thing. Angular anything is interesting, and here we go. Joe, how do you feel and what do you expect from tonight?
I feel good and happy birthday and and I hope we have a lot more together. And I'm sure we do. So but it's great to see you, and it's great to see somebody that has so much energy, yeah, and so much curiosity at 79. So you're an inspiration. I really mean that.
Thank you.
And so uh, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate some of the things that you went through last week with Richard. Uh, you know, and it actually, I think it maps into the isotropic vector matrix discussions that we've been having on Wednesday, um, especially. So, regarding a 3D reality, and the Cartesian coordinate system that we've adopted, and so how people's realities are different, um, and their perspectives on realities. So, um, yeah, no, I mean, I very much appreciate the exercise that you went through, and I think that as we keep going through um, Amy's book, that it's these types of things are actually clicking a little bit more, uh, primarily because they're communicated in a really uh, digestible fashion. So my expectation is to continue with that journey, and kind of to be able to explain it from my own perspective based off of her ability to communicate a lot of Bucky's ideas clearly. That's generally speaking, but being back after a few weeks, it's great, and yeah, I'm excited. So it's good to see everybody. And how do you feel? And what are you looking to take away from today?
First, I'm blown away. I'm blown away by the fact that Steve, you're 79, because it didn't even occur to me that actually that you are even in your in your 70s.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
So, and then okay, Richard, I didn't expect him to be over 80.
Yeah,
Completely. Yeah. So I think it was a couple of our meetings ago, then that was brought up, and I was like, what? you know so just thought you want to know that never imagined that you guys were beyond 70. Okay, so but great company to be in, so I'm just thrilled to be part of it. Okay. um what maybe because this is 2025 and we started our school It's been like 3 weeks in. We're all breaking for Chinese New Year, so nothing goes on anywhere in the city. As in, like, literally, if you're talking about all traditional shops, companies are all closed for the week. Only and it was only, I think, the last 20 over years that malls are open in a big way and restaurants are open in a big way. Last time you cannot find any Chinese food, during the first at least 2 days of Chinese New Year, sometimes up to 4 days. Most companies are still closed for 4 or 5 days, and we are closed entirely for a week, right? And now there are places like the commercial area near my place, packed, usually packed, double packed, triple packed, you name it, and throughout the day and evening and so on. And if you go during the first, second day of Chinese New Year, you can park anywhere. You can even lie down in the middle of the street, things like this. So this gives you a sense of the celebration that we're going through for the Chinese New Year, right? But what I want to share with you is being the beginning of 2025. I'll update you a little bit about the education direction we're going. I'm adopting more and more to parents that we are nurturing good citizens and not good workers. Yeah. Yeah. So the other day I had a conversation with one of my ex-students on this. I've started to put that out into the decks that we are putting out, because one of the realizations that happened over these past few weeks, because we had to set direction for our entire team, right? Now that COVID is really, really over, the last year, our whole entire school, the energy was back to way before what it was, it used to be. It's high energy, a lot of things happening, a lot of collaborations coming our way. The kids are shining. People want to do more things with us, it's like that. And then the past, I think 2-3 years before COVID, and then the 4 years, 2 years of COVID and 2 years, the whole thing kind of, the whole environment changed upbecause of the economic situation, political situation in our country. So last year, everything started opening up again, and I just thought I'd like to update you both that right now we have 3 international schools. We have about 2,000 over students, in total, not counting the English centers that we have. But our target now, this year, I think very likely we're opening another 3 international schools. Okay, we have 1 international school already in Jakarta from last year. This year, we should have 1 in Bali coming up, right? So there are intentions for us to also invest into a school or 2 in Vietnam. Yeah, but this is when we get together what do you call, the investments that we in discussions right now. Yeah, but anyway, now, so the thing was now setting the context for my entire team on how to move forward with this. Bear in mind, when COVID hit, there was, like, literally outside of teaching, my people all don't really do anything extra, but suddenly after COVID, it's like, wow, there's so much to do. The job is a lot, and so kind of to put back everything into context, because it used to be like this even before the things started to slow down, and my people had forgotten. So we needed to set the whole vision moving forward. Now, we started in 2009, right, to set out to change education. And I think I mentioned before, we didn't know what we were changing it out to. But we knew that we needed to head towards 15 years. Our target was 15 years, to change it for 15 years. And the shocking thing was, we realized that last year was that 15 years.
Wow.
It arrived, and so we had to reset everything with the team and say, look, we set out to change it, and we were looking at 15 years, and I said 15 years had arrived. Now, guys, we now have to look at the next 20 years. Okay, if a child is in primary 1 right now, year 1, they would graduate in 2040. So let's look at 5 years upon their graduation, right? So 20 years, and what that looks like. But we realized whatever we did the past 15 years cannot be used for the next 20 years.
Right.
Okay, that was the first realization. And lucky for us, because we kept moving the thing into the future, the last 3 years, we got the solution for the next 20 years. Okay, so what that looks like is this. Okay, maybe now to put into context education as a whole, we have a very strong message to parents and say, look, the traditional education system is training your kids to work in the 1980s to the 2020s. That really woke them up. You know, a lot of parents, when they hear us talk about it like this, yeah, but that's what you're training. You put traditional systems as what your children are going to come out and not know where they're going to fit. But that's 2020s. But now we're looking at 2045. Nobody's even starting to look at that. And then we looked at 2045. What then does it look like, right? And we, lo and behold, it is actually about putting the real world and wrapping the whole school around, wrapping it around the whole school. And that works very well with all our schools coming forth. The one that I mentioned is now everybody in that school is on board. Is an esports education school, and collaborating with the UK, right? Certifications coming from there. Wait till you see what our sports is going to look like. Let me go down the path a little bit, and I'll share with you all later. But we are looking at our MIT STEM International School. It's not STEM education in schools the way people think about. We're wrapping the world around the STEM, meaning that we're dealing with processes and equipment that you would use with this Fanuc from Japan and Bosch Rexroth from Germany. We're dealing with Silicon Valley, anything that will hack the whole process. So the exciting thing is 20 of our students have been selected by the Silicon Valley company who's dealing with the school, one of the schools there, to collaborate. 2 high schools, one in Asia, one in US, to collaborate. And they've selected our kids to train to go for the X Prize, the foundation.
Oh, yeah.
I think you all are familiar there. I mean, when we heard about it, it was the first time for us over here, right? So it's a 7-year commitment from the students, and they're on. 20 of them have gone on board. So right now, 2 schools, one in our school, and the other is the one in Silicon Valley. I think that they're looking at one more school in Dubai to come forward to do together. So I'm so for us, nothing local.
So it's a joint. It's a joint proposal. I'm sorry.
It is a proposal, but then our partner, the person who is doing it with us, they are we're going down this path, so we'll get more details. I'm not quite sure how they are planning to do it, but it'll be very, very exciting because the rest of the companies are all big R&D companies, including universities and so on. So I think they're quite excited to have 2 high schools to propose and, pitch for something. So anyway, that's where we are going. So nothing less than international. And then our entrepreneur program, I'll be very happy to let you know that what's wrapped around it is this Me to We movement. So we're no longer a local school trying to do this. We are in collaboration with a global movement to shift the thinking from me to we. And you can key in me to numerical 2 we, and you will be able to find it on the internet. And so we are part of what they're doing. So anyway, they're working from our school is the base to build all this, right? And you'll be excited to know that we've got our neighboring countries coming to talk to us government-wise on this Me to We to see what we can do in that country as well as a country, not just a school. I won't mention the name yet, but we will get more details to you as we get further with it. Yeah. And because Me to We, recently, I was saying that the students were designing for the celebrity of the 90s. Yeah, her name is Natasha Wright, from the band LaBouche back in the 90s. Yeah. So she was here with her husband. Her husband is Alfred McCrary. He writes music and all that and I think he was working on We Are the World. He did that
Oh,
and a
yeah,
few others. And so his
I remember that.
collaborators are people like, like who's who in the song in Hi Richard. Hi Richard.
Hi, I'm back finally.
Good to see you. Yes. So I was just updating what's been going on, and so she got the kids. She briefed the kids. The kids did the design for her. Now they created a whole fashion line for her. And so she came over, walked down the catwalk with the kids, and we had people flying in from Hong Kong, from US, from Philippines and Indonesia to come and attend the fashion show. And we even had a Miss Malaysia teaching our kids to do the catwalk, and she was there alongside with the kids, modeling. It was quite something else. Yeah. And we launched 3 lines. One is the kids line with for Natasha Wright. And then our global CEO, he launched his brand, which is Stu Art. Yeah, and he's the one who's is the brainchild of this Me to We, and Michael Herrera, who's his partner for the Me to We. And we had our school fashion line that came out as well. Like the school uniform is a fashion line in its own right. So just that is what we're moving forward now into the 2045. And so that's what it's going to look like, and more crazy things are going to be happening. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Cool.
Thank you.
So, Richard, how do you feel, and what would you like to take away today?
Well, I have to say I'm feeling very frustrated that we're out of town and I have a mini Wi-Fi, but I got connected with the iCloud through our Living Works group a while back, and somehow or another this little Wi-Fi is not lined up or signed up. So it wouldn't let me in. And so I had to turn everything off and now come back through the phone without a direct internet. So anyway, I saw the beginning of Steve talking about our discussion last week and trying to figure out how to get from 90 degrees to 60 degrees, or at least get from the observer into the observer-observed connection. So I'm hoping to get more of that, and I'm hoping the feedback that might have come out of Steve's explanation adds more to the dialogue as to whether or not that was an acceptable way to try and put the observer in with the observed. Yeah, so it's so I'm wanting to get not so much more of the same, but get an expansion on what we're reading in this particular chapter, and going forward to understand how to work with both the 90-degree XYZ coordinate system, but as also to show how it can easily move over into the 60-degree observer-observed system. Because if we can figure that out, then I think it's much easier to, if you want, show it to little kids. Maybe it'll be the other way around. If we showed something to them, they'd give us the answer in a second. and they would be teaching the adults, which is what they they tend to do these days, it seems, in an awful lot of how they pick up on the technology so quick. Yeah, so back to you, Steve, is it?
Yeah. Let me see here. I wanted to share that the link of Richard and I's discussion is on the invitation that I sent out tonight. So you can go listen to that if you'd like to listen to it. And the I thought I kind of like I put together a thumbnail for the for our conversation, and in doing so, I actually mixed a couple of the cosmography graphics into the conversation about the spherical topology. So, and we're about to go into that in a major way. So, if you want to listen to that, you sure can. And Richard, after we got done, I was going to bed that night and I started a meditation, and I came up with some other ideas, and I have now printed that off and for myself. I'm going to read through it before I send it out but I think it's worthy a worthy examination of how do I get to 60 degrees, and and I think that is worth something anyway. So let's see here. That's Richard's thing. We and I showed everybody this little thing, which is a takeoff on the bottom here of the page we're going to start on today. So we're starting on page 85. We'll read that little thing at the bottom, and I'm going to enlarge this so it's readable. And then we can move down to the pages that follow as well. Okay, good. So we're looking at this spherical topology here, and we're going to read. And so I love sharing reading. Joe, are you up to reading, starting us out?
Sure.
Good.
The dimension is, oh, hang on. No,
Hang on a second. There we go.
dimension is a widely encompassing term and can legitimately refer to numbers of factors in a variety of geometric phenomena. Consider time can be devoted to unraveling Fuller's different uses of dimension in synergetics, and we shall continue to cite examples throughout our investigation.
Okay, next page. Here we go.
And this is that was the Cartesian coordinates
Yeah.
that was just demonstrated there. Size. Fuller's book takes a firm stand in the operating sections.
I'm sorry.
Synergetics originates in, there we go.
Okay.
Fuller's book takes a firm stand in the opening sections, not operating there. Synergetics originates in the assumption that dimension must be physical. 200.2, meaning size. The declaration is soon reinforced. There is no dimension without time, 527.01. Firmly embedded in reality now, it takes time to embody a concept. Everything ties together so far. It would be uncharacteristically clear cut if that were Fuller's only use of dimension. Synergetics may start with dimension as size, but other applications of the multifaceted term are sprinkled throughout the book. Identification of space as three-dimensional is not one of them. Keep in mind that this mathematical convention has a firm hold. It's difficult to think otherwise about space, and consequently, not easy to view Fuller's material objectively.
Now, I want to just talk a little bit about this. This is quite profound to me. It takes time to embody a concept. This kind of smacks of Stephen Wolfram, where time is simply based on computation, that the forces of the universe are out there, and in order for them to compute, time is the ruler by which we describe the computation. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a recent conversation that time may be moving at different speeds in different parts of the universe. There's a paper that Sabina Hassenfelder has examined this week in her podcast, where these guys are kind of breaking away from traditional physics, and instead of seeing dark matter as some kind of energy or some kind of physical quantity, they see that what we call dark matter can be explained if you simply just modulate time in a particular part of space. So that's an interesting prospect. Maybe I'll find that Hassenfelder link and throw it in the deal. So as we go. Okay, good. So I'm complete there. Any other thoughts or comments before we continue?
No, that'll be interesting to actually view. And so, you know, the experience of time is definitely also different for everybody as well.
Yeah.
There's an experiential part, and even how our brain processes time
Yeah.
as we get older. But
But this one seems to be saying that, as it said, the mathematical convention of XYZ coordinates has a firm hold, and it will take time to see it otherwise.
Right.
sure.
And that to me is very fascinating because this is where I'm at now with everything, or all the things that started to evolve at the turn of the last century and throughout the 20th century. And so much of the world is still stuck in the pre-20th century notion of everything is mechanical, everything is material. And so here we are 125 years into the slow process of changing. And so that's how I'm treating time in this context, that it takes a period of weeks, months, years, century to
Yeah.
get past a firm hold. It's like Kuhn's idea of
Paradigm shifts.
scientific revolution, that you can't get from one paradigm to another evolutionarily because the resistors won't let you. And so you have to get there through a revolution. And then, of course, Thomas Kuhn said that as soon as the new paradigm is in place, then it locks down too and won't let the next evolution emerge evolutionarily. It'll have to go through a revolution as well. So I don't know if that's what this is, what she means here, but that's how I relate to the notion of a firm hold, and it takes time to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an idea. I'm sorry.
Mm,
I mean,
Okay. I also took note of the word embedded, because this I just double checked the use of it, right? Because we use embed, right? And so first time I'm seeing the word embedded. Dictionary wise, it's embedded, but then this is, I know this Bucky is always very deliberate about the words that he uses, right? So one explanation is embedded, and embedded can be used, people use it interchangeably, but embedded is formal. So, but I think Bucky has just made it formal, and there must be a reason why he used embedded. Yeah. I'm just bringing
Yeah.
out that because I've not seen the meaning as different. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Interesting. Also, we keep coming back to this, but firmly embedded in reality now, it takes time to embody a concept. Now, we're talking about dimensionality. Synergetics may start with dimension as size, but other applications of the multifaceted term are sprinkled throughout the book, synergetics. And what's coming to me is I see the universe in 3 dimensions, and I see this Cartesian XYZ thing has been stamped in my brain. But, as we've discussed, there are right now 4 of us on this call. So there are really 4 interrelationships. There are really 4 dimensions going on right now in this call. In fact, there are probably 16 dimensions going on right now in this call because each of us are conceptualizing each other and what we are saying. And each of those conceptualizations are dimensions that help us evaluate what we're getting out of this call. And each of those take time. And I take, like Richard and I took extra time last week to develop that dimension in our relationship. And we're not spending that much time this week, but I don't know, this whole concept of time, dimension, relationship, uh, and I'm locked into XYZ. I'm locked into Cartesian, you know, physics, and that's the basis of Newtonian physics. Interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, there's some mumbling.
No, I mean, and just I think to some of this idea that getting people to adopt a different system. I mean, you have to look back through history too at this point and see how long change has taken and what it has what it's taken to accomplish that. And even moving beyond Kuhn's ideas, you can go back to the idea of the idea that the sun isn't the center of the universe. And
Yeah.
you start to think about Galileo and people like that, and how long people took to even accept that. So it gives you some perspective
Yeah.
as to kind of how to change people's perspective on reality.
And I just made a mistake because I said there's 4 people on the call, there's 16. The actual formula is n squared minus n divided by 2. So that would be 16 minus 4 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. Just, we have a tetrahedron going on here. I just thought I would
Yeah.
point that out.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, very good.
Okay, good. If we're ready, you can continue, Joe. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, planes of symmetry, but the tetrahedron and the octahedron, two of the simplest structures, incorporate four non-parallel lines. The faces of the tetrahedron present four distinct directions, just as the faces of the cube provide three. The octahedron has four parts or pairs of opposing parallel triangles, and it can be demonstrated that they are parallel to the tetrahedral faces.
Now let's pause on this for a second because he says something interesting. The four faces of the tetrahedron present four distinct directions. And just because I am the way I am, I would say the node indicates a direction. But he's saying, no, the face is a direction, which is very interesting. And of course, if you take a tetrahedron and you do its dual, connecting the center of each of the faces, you have another tetrahedron inside of that. So a tetrahedron is a fractal of itself all the way up and all the way down.
Yeah, that kind of gets to what you were talking about last week as well, with the collapsing triangles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I don't want to get lost. The idea that I normally see the node, I would see the edge of that tetrahedron, and I would see that node is in one direction, the other node is in another direction. But he points out that the four distinct directions are based on the faces. So the tetrahedron has four distinct faces or four directions, where the cube only provides three, interestingly enough. Okay, good. I just thought I would screw up. Here's figure 6.2. Do you want to read that, Joe?
Yeah, I was just actually making a quick note.
Okay.
Sorry. Figure 6.2, 4D, the tetrahedron and octahedron embody four distinct directions. Octahedron's four pairs of opposing parallel triangles within tetrahedron's four face planes.
I'm just having such an epiphany over this. The face is the direction. That is just blowing me away. Because I usually see the edges pointing in directions, right? No, it's
Well,
the
that's exactly
face.
right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the face that points us in directions. Thus, the cube only gives us three directions.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
really interesting, actually,
Yeah.
think of it from that perspective.
I've broken into a
And I
cold
and I
sweat
agree
over
with you. I
this.
mean, normally you think of the nodes as taking, as a direction itself.
Yeah.
And when I think about it in terms of graphs, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, when
Very
you think
cool.
about it, yeah, no, that
Any
is
other comments or questions as we move on? Here we go.
that made it pretty clear as well. Fuller refers to this geometric trait as dimension, and through repeated observation places considerable emphasis on the inherent fourness of the minimum system in universe. The octahedron's planar system is four-dimensionally referenced, being parallel to the four symmetrical interacting planes of the tetrahedron. The icosahedron, on the other hand, exhibiting various five-fold symmetries, embodies five-dimensionality in Fuller's unorthodox uh, appropriation of terms.
Where's the fifth dimension on a an icosahedron? Right. I always thought he was saying the octahedron. The octahedron has four symmetrical intermittent planes. Very cool. You see the
Yeah,
octahedron's planar surface is four-dimensionally referenced, being parallel to the four symmetrically interacting planes of the tetrahedron.
that's
Wow.
interesting. Huh,
And the icosahedron represents five-dimensionality. Okay. Richard, do you have anything to say about all that?
that's interesting.
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Just
But what is,
digesting.
My brain is blown. I don't think I'm in a
Yeah,
cold
that's
sweat
actually a
right
little
now.
bit hard to even get my head around.
What, Ann?
yeah, how many dimensions have people discovered?
I don't understand. Cartesian only has three dimensions. I think in quantum mechanics, they're saying that there are somewhere between 11 to 21 dimensions in quantum mechanics, but they're so
Oh,
small, we don't see them.
oh,
That's what I've heard.
17 to 21. All right, quantum mechanics.
11 to 21.
Oh,
11 is
11.
no, they are dimensions that mathematically work from what I've heard. We just can't recognize them in our sphere of observation.
Hmm.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's that's definitely a takeaway for me
Yeah.
to look into. Other applications of dimension. Another twist. Fuller also refers to the three structural parameters. I don't know why I said vertices, edges, and faces as different dimensions of structure in
Wow.
a later section covering the concept of dimension. Fuller reintroduces constant relative abundance, as explained in chapter 4, under the heading three unique dimensional abundances, namely vertices, edges, and faces. This and other ambiguous, if not contradictory, usages of certain terms can often obscure the mathematical statement being made. In this case, Fuller's point about the consistent arithmetic relationships between vertices, edges, and faces in closed systems is lost amid confusion about the meaning of dimensional abundances. This goes back to really earlier in the book where Amy does go over the importance of words and how our words can actually just distort our realities. So this is actually just, really speaking to the integrity of uh, Fuller's ideas and the use of his language, so that it's a complete system. Um, Even when I'm seeing somebody doing a translation, um, it's interesting. You can see the integrity by just the approach that they're taking, by the consistency within the words that they're using, and um, yeah, I mean, it's just it's if sometimes they will use one word in one particular circumstance, and I'm just thinking about going through experiences in translating the Tao Te Ching. How people start to use words in relation to being, that, or in relation to time, that they're sometimes inconsistent with it. And so there's a consistency and integrity to the words that actually Fuller uses. So
As you mentioned that, Joe, one of the links that I cherish is a link you sent me about a translation of the Tao Te Ching, which actually shows 4 translations
yeah,
of the
yeah.
same verse, and the differences in those translations, while they have the same, I want to say, angular topology, they
Right.
some are quite expansive compared to others in terms
Correct.
of the way they're interpreted,
That's absolutely right.
and they're all pointing in the same direction.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And it's different perspectives.
Yes.
So different perspectives of the observer. So I think that that's actually a really interesting example and use of how we can have different perspectives on the same type of, some people take real liberties with the translations and pose their perspective. But then you have to kind of look at patterns within the text itself. But yeah, no, I think that that's actually whenever looking at different translations, you kind of have to start to kind of parse through uh, you know people's approaches, and sometimes their approaches are a little bit confusing, and then it's maybe that they impose their perspective onto the translation itself, and it doesn't necessarily align with reality. Whereas Bucky, you have to have everything, and everything has to have integrity in order for the system to work. So
Well, how about looking at whether perspective is, if you want, equivalent to angle. So if you move 1 inch to the left or right, you've changed the angle of what you're looking at.
mhm.
And therefore, perhaps you've changed your perspective.
Sure.
So that's another interesting sort of situation in terms of learning how to talk angles, different angles on what is seen, as opposed to different, well, not necessarily opposed to, but equivalent to the notion of different perspectives. It's just, it's a different angle on the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a good point. It's actually knowing that that exists is the key. Because once you know that that exists, then you understand that why somebody sees it's important to listen to see why somebody sees something a different way. So, no, I mean that you have different perspectives, different opinions, different interpretations of the same thing. So knowing that, and knowing that you have a limited perspective, is essential as to why you should be engaging in dialogue.
But you left out the word angle.
Sure, you use the word angle as a way of
And well,
until
I'm
you have
using
different
it
angles.
in the context of Fuller's reference to vertexes, angles, and faces
Okay.
or edges. I mean, edges seems to be an angle word as well, apparently.
I'm going to kind of Richard's point about angle is this is one of my favorite graphics. I would like to have more control over my machine here and be able to show it to you in stages, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Let me just get this thing to load if I possibly can. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, what I was
Richard?
trying to do with students around this whole idea of of being in a three-dimensional environment, like a classroom, let's say, and then getting students to move around into different locations in the room, and then to, in a sense, help them see that they were now looking at the same room from a different angle. And that sounds to me like what Joe was getting at from a different perspective. And so they see different things in the room than they would have been in another location in the room.
Yeah.
I have a
We
really
covered
good graphic that demonstrates this point to a
Yeah,
T.
I know which one you're going to pull up too. I was
Yeah,
just about to
I'm actually
recommend you.
I'm actually pulling up two of them.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
the cover of Gödel Esther Bach is actually an example of that.
Okay, hopefully you guys can, whoops. See, I have my computer going ape crazy. Okay, good. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see that? Has
No,
started screen sharing.
I do not see it.
Yeah, it's coming up slowly. See that little spinning circle?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I hope it doesn't take too long. Any other comments while we're waiting for my computer to do its thing? I have got to solve this problem. I could spend $300 probably and come close to a
I
solution.
know it is it the one with true and false or
No,
no,
it's a pain in the neck right now because it's not showing up.
there's one
Wow.
that this would be a
I
good.
wonder what else is going on with my computer. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. Okay. Well, I'll see if I can, what I'm really worried about now is if it's not sharing at all. Maybe if I stop sharing and then I start sharing again, maybe it'll do it. Okay. No, it's not going to do it. Wait. I'll be blinked. I'm still back in the same do loop. Okay. I'm wondering if I'm even actually going to be able to share my screen. So let's continue. Hopefully this will come up and we'll be in good shape. No, there we go. Okay, at least I got this thing going. Okay, good. I think we're somewhere in here, right?
Sure.
Another
Yeah, another one.
unorthodox
Other
usage.
applications.
Yeah.
Are we at other applications right at the top, or are we down here at the second paragraph?
Second paragraph.
Okay, second paragraph. So another unorthodox usage.
Another unorthodox usage involves pairs of opposites. At one point in synergetics, for example, a magnet with its positive and negative poles is called a two-dimensional system. Along the same lines, polar points are two-dimensional plus and minus opposites. Finally, dimensional aggregations in the opening quotation of this section refers to numbers of layers in certain clusters of closely packed spheres. We shall explore these patterns in Chapter 8. Fuller's different uses of dimension may be confusing, but they are not, strictly speaking, incorrect. At least not in terms of the dictionary. Mathematical convention is another issue. Fuller does mention the historical precedent for conceiving of space as exclusively three-dimensional, thereby explaining his license to reevaluate our concept of dimension. However, the reference is too late in the book to clear up early confusion.
Well, that's good. We have a Buckminster Fuller apologist here.
Yeah, and I think that's it's an important point that she's making.
Yeah.
That while this may come up as confusing, um, uh, but mathematically, when it comes to mathematical convention, and that comes back to the idea of adoption. All right, so you have to overcome the way people, calculating things. And that takes a lot of work, really does. Uh, the Greeks came to employ 90 degreeness and unique perpendicular.
This
Purple.
happened? Oh my gosh. Hang on. I'm sorry. I was trying
No worries.
to uh, to do something, and it's giving me a choice now to close Zoom or to let it take its time. Okay, guys, I'm going to commit to do what I can about solving this problem for next week, because it appears that I'm getting worse and not better at solving these problems, or else we're going to invite somebody else to be the host and share to torture everybody. Wow. If I end up having to close it, let me see. Joe, can I make you a host?
Sure.
Well, let's see if I can get to my dashboard. Let me see if I can stop sharing. If I close the program, then everybody's going to have to re-log in again. Okay, good. Something's happening. Well, that's exciting. Let me see if I can assign you as a host, Joe, on the other phone.
Sure.
Oh, I can't do it because I'm only able to leave over here. Well, I think the best thing to do is for me to log out and everybody else log back in. I don't see any other choice. This means the recording will be interrupted because I can't pass the ball to anybody right now. And if I close the program, the recording ends. Or we could just casually wait. What's the vote? Because we could just have two links for this call, part one and part two.
I think it's okay if we log in and log back on, log out and
Okay.
log back on. Yeah.
Let's do
so
that. I'm going to close the
Yeah.
program. So everybody log back in, okay?
Sure.
Sounds good.
But who are participating in this? Oh, there are two of us. Okay, the recording is still going. That was cool. Resume recording. Okay, this was the graphic that I was having trouble trying to share. But this is exciting because it shows how one can view an object from different angles and see completely different things. It's more obvious than Richard inviting his students to move to different parts of the room and see what they see what's different, as to get a different angle of perception. But I really love the idea. Well, this simple geometric shape off to the left is kind of exciting, where the different perspective or the different angle of viewing shows a circle, square, a triangle, which one would imagine could be, how could anybody see the same object and one person perceive a square and the other one perceive a triangle and a third person perceive a circle? How could that possibly happen? But then looking over here on the right-hand side, we see a whole bunch of different perspectives just because of angle of view, depending on the complexity of the shape. And I would say that life is as complex as any one of those things over there. So anyway, that's an idea. Comments, questions? We're at the top of the page. I think we're gonna, yeah, it's working now. So let's see if I can stay on target
Yeah,
and
there
keep
it
it
is.
simple.
Yeah, that's the exact, yeah, that was the exact thing that I was asked, thought you should. Yeah,
What's that now, Joe?
no, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We good?
We're good.
All right. Do you want to continue reading? We want to assume we need to change it off to somebody, but you want to read,
No,
continue to
I
do
mean,
so?
I can keep going there. Is this where we left off? I'm trying to say that.
I think it
Oh.
is, but I can back it up one page and see.
Yeah, that's where we stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, three-dimensional, clear up early confusion. Right. And I was talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, okay.
him being an apologist. Okay, good.
Yeah. The Greeks came to employ 90-degrees and unique perpendicular, that's perpendicularity to the system as a basic dimensional requirement for the unchallenged three-dimensional geometrical data coordination, 825.31. So while he does justify his usage with this reference to the words flexibility, the clarification is obscured by the book's sequence. The reader seeking a quick reason to dismiss synergetics might focus on Fuller's extravagant citation of other dimensions early in the book. His apparent familiarity with the fourth dimension provides just cause for suspicion. However, a simple change of article from the to a fourth dimension gives the term a very different effect. Like most subjects in synergetics, dimension cannot be neatly presented in one complete package. Boundaries are never that clearly defined. In addition to the fact that different subjects overlap, there can always be new twists. The trick is to leave ourselves open to exploration, free to evaluate each new application without bias. Angular topology. Once in a long while, a generalized principle takes recognizable shape and emerges out of the vast sea of man's cumulative findings. For Fuller, these principles, characterized as true in every case, are the real wealth of society. Applications may not always be immediately clear, but if an inventory of generalized principles is made accessible, he reasoned, humanity will put them to use sooner or later. The principle of angular topology was recognized by the mathematician and philosopher René Descartes, 1596 to 1650. But the title, of course, is Fuller's, perhaps giving Descartes' remarkable discovery a new title. Bucky hoped to excite the kind of attention he felt it deserved. In every polyhedral system, the sum of the angles around all the vertices is exactly 720 degrees, less than the number of vertices times 360, or 360 times v minus 720. True for the tetrahedron, true for the crocodile. In Fuller's words, every system has exactly 720 of takeout. If this principle seems complicated, it is only because the words are hard to follow. But the following image should make it easier. Picture a paper cone, the shape of an ice cream cone without the ice cream. Notice the cone having an opening at the base is not a closed system. Now split the paper cone open by slicing a straight line from its pointed tip to the circular hole, and then spread the piece of paper out fiat on the floor like a rug. That's an example of that.
Coned, sliced, and flattened.
Interesting. There is now an angular gap left by the paper where the floor shows through. That gap is the takeout angle, the angular difference between the flat map and a cone. I'm just thinking about this. That's how, yeah. Yeah, I have to think about that for a minute. It's interesting because I have some analogies that I'm thinking about. Anyway,
Well, I'm glad to see this graphic because I had no idea what a takeout angle was before I saw the graphic. I'm so visual.
yeah, and I'm just thinking about the implications of the takeout angle. It's pretty interesting.
Looks, if it were on its side, it would be a Pac-Man symbol.
Yeah,
That's true. And if there were a bow on it, it would be Miss Pac-Man.
That's right.
So yeah, I'd definitely consider that.
Yeah. Okay.
In the same manner, you can slice open some number of edges of polyhedron until its surface can be spread out like a rug. The resulting map, similar to a dressmaker's pattern, is called in geometry a polyhedron.
Polyhedron's net.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still looking at the top thing on that.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And you know what? When I've cut up those,
That's interesting. It's just to see that pattern as well.
yeah, there's a gap right there.
Well, yeah.
And if I recall, some of these angles aren't exactly, when you cut them apart, there are, and flatten them out, there are weird holes, weird angular holes. Okay, good. So we finished that, the polyhedron's net.
That's correct.
Okay, we finished that. Comments? Richard, you're so quiet.
yeah, well, I mean, that to me looks like a flattened icosahedron, and it's sort of what Fuller did to create the Dymaxion map.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Richard. It was
There's 20
yeah.
triangles there.
Yeah. Now it's nets of an icosahedron and an octahedron. So this lower guy is the octahedron.
Right.
This guy here is the icosahedron. I have spent hours cutting things out, trying to build these things. That's not as easy as it looks. Okay. Whoops. You want to read that, Joe?
Sure. Nets of icosahedron and octahedron. A net contains all faces of a polyhedron, some of them separated by angular gaps. It is a flat pattern which can be folded along the edges and taped together to generate its polyhedron.
So figure 6.4 shows nets of an icosahedron and an octahedron.
Mm.
I'll read for a few minutes, if that's okay. The
Okay.
principle of angular topology states that the sum of the angular gaps, no matter how simple or complex the system, will be 720 degrees. Wow.
Mm.
So the angular gaps, if I total the angular gaps here and 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 here, they'll all total up to be 720 degrees. That seems to be the included angle. That doesn't count for this outside. which brings us to 1,080. But I guess that'll have to go for now. Richard, any comments on that?
Um, no, I think, thinking on it in terms of the 720,
Yeah,
you've taken out 720.
yeah,
Because if you
yeah.
go back to that diagram
Okay,
and you take I was thinking the angles, 1, 2, 3, 1.
these are all 60 degrees, right?
That's what I was looking at, yeah. So
Yeah,
1, 2,
1,
3,
2, 3,
4,
4.
5,
There's 4 on
6,
top.
7, 8.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 of them. So 8 times 60.
That's 480.
That is 480. I wonder if there's something over here on the side. There's 180 right there. Here's an 180 right here. Plus another 60. I don't know. I hate to go too far down the. Shall we leave this diagram and continue reading, Richard?
Yeah.
All right. I don't get the 720. Too bad she didn't put the math problem right there on the page. Or go through these procedures in reverse. Start with a flat piece of paper and cut out one pie-shaped segment to make a cone. Then keep going, cutting out more slices, just until the point at which the paper can be closed off into a system. This point is reached when you have taken out exactly 720 degrees. It's a prerequisite to closure. There is no leeway. To check, you can measure up all the scraps that you've taken out, and the results are always the same, however irregular your cuts or strange your resulting closed system, the total takeout must be 720. This consistent total presence, a generalized principle for closed systems. Wow. The surface angles of any tetrahedron, regular or not, also happen to add up to 720. 4 triangles, 4 times 180 equals 720. He's measuring the inside angles. Fuller
Yeah.
certainly isn't going to let that one slip by. The difference between the visibly definite system, the visibly definite or the visibly definite system, and the invisibly finite universe is always exactly one finite invisible tetrahedron.
Mm.
Now I'm as confused as I'm just overwhelmed. I don't know that I'm confused. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm as overwhelmed as I was as when I read synergetics in the first place. Consider once again the variety of systems. The principle, a first cousin of Euler's law, describes this principle, the first cousin of Euler's law, describes an extraordinary consistency. The 720-degree excess is an appropriate parallel to Euler's constant 2, in which there are 720 degrees in 2 complete revolutions. I thought
360 times 2.
Yeah, I thought the 720 degrees was Dirac's belt trick. I didn't remember it as Euler's
Constant too.
constant too.
Yeah, I remember you put that 720-degree example in one of your PDFs.
Yeah,
It's pretty clear, but I would have never derived a constant 2
yeah.
from that image.
Euler's law reveals that the number of edges is always exactly 2 less than the vertices plus the faces. Okay, that makes sense. That's Euler's constant too. Euler's law reveals that the number of edges is always exactly 2 less than the vertices plus faces, no matter
Hmm.
how complex the system, just as the angular takeout is 720 degrees.
Now that's easily demonstrated with the tetrahedron because it's 4 plus 4 minus 2 is 6.
Oh, I see. Oh, I
4
see.
faces, 4 edges is 8.
Right.
Minus 2 is 6. Four,
Edges.
4 faces and 4 nodes,
Right.
vertices.
Is 8.
Minus 2 is 6 edges,
Right.
six connections.
Right. And that's equal to 720 degrees.
Hmm.
Just as the angular takeout is 720 degrees, whether the surface angles themselves add up to a total of 720 degrees, as in the tetrahedron, or 57,600 degrees, as in the 4-frequency icosahedron. Don't worry, that structure will be explained below. Tables 6-1 shows the results of a few different polyhedra verifying the constant excess of 720 degrees. I got one more paragraph to read to get to that deal. Oh, shoot. What just happened? What page am I on here?
Correct.
Okay. What page? 87. Okay, I need to go down another page. Okay, good. Here we are. That's where we were. Angular topology, we read that. We saw Pac-Man.
That's Pac-Man, yeah.
Yeah.
And the triangles.
And here's
that-
the thing, and then here's Euler's law, constant 2. Here's Euler's constant 2.
There you go.
Okay, table 6-1 reveals another. Yeah, we good?
Page 90.
Yeah. Table 6-1 reveals another notable consistency. The sum of the surface angles in every polyhedron is a multiple of the tetrahedron's 720 degrees, column 5. This calls to remind our earlier observation that the number of edges in many ordered polyhedra is a multiple of the tetrahedron's 6.
Hmm.
And we're going to refer to chapter 4 to get to that thing. We're at the bottom of page 90, and we're going to see that table. Here's the table.
Okay.
Structural quanta, polyhedra edges in even multiples of the tetrahedron 6. Polyhedron. They're listed down the side.
Number of vertices. Vertices times 360. Wow, that's actually really, I mean, I remember going through this with you and Manu one night. That's an interesting way. The way she
Yeah.
presented that is actually very simple.
Column 2 minus column 3. Always equals 720 degrees.
And then divided by, yeah, 720. Wow. Yeah, so 1440, 720, 1.
Wow.
Interesting.
A
Um,
4F icosahedron.
yeah, that was,
That's the 57,000 surface angles. VE. What's a VE?
Vector equilibrium.
yeah,
It's a what?
vector
Vector
equilibrium.
equilibrium.
Oh, vector equilibrium. Ooh. Everybody had enough look at that chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to come back to it though.
Angular takeout an example. A complicated system such as the 4-frequency icosahedron, it's called a 4-frequency icosahedron, provides an especially good illustration of this remarkable consistency. The structure is an irregular polyhedron with 320 triangular faces and is based on the symmetry of the icosahedron. Each icosahedral triangle is replaced by 16 new smaller triangles,
Hmm.
producing the the total of 320 faces of this more or less spherical structure. Chapter 15 will describe the origin of the high-frequency icosahedral enclosures in detail, but for now we can understand that the faces are irregular triangles. As shown in figure 6.5, most vertices join 6 triangles, and we recall from chapter 4 that if 6 60-degree angles meet, they create a flat surface. Therefore, if 6 faces are to surround a convex vertex of a polyhedron, their angular total must be less than 360 degrees, which produces the angular takeout. If it were 360 degrees, it would be flat, but it's less than that, so therefore there's an angular takeout, which creates the convex shape of the polyhedron. I hope I said that right. If I said it wrong, please somebody interrupt me and correct me. Those interested in exploring how to calculate individual edge lengths and surface angles can refer to Chord's factors in Appendix A, trigonometric calculations. Appendix A, trigonometric calculations, and to other resources, page 323. For a list of additional information sources, other readers should simply be aware that the values will be highly irregular numbers. Having noted that to assure convexity, the surface angles must add up to less than 360 degrees at each vertex. We can reflect on how extremely small the gaps at each vertex in this structure will be. Okay, there it is.
Wow.
That's a 4F icosahedron, I presume. And I see a bunch of hexagons. There's the pentagon right there. I was looking for the pentagon.
No, this is it's interesting because
and you see the pentagon and the hexagon sort of
yeah.
interconnected with each other.
And each side of the pentagon connects to a hexagon. And between the angle between the hexagon and the pentagon is a triangle.
And it's going to be interesting to kind of relate this to even the idea of centering in a moment to what we were talking about on Wednesdays.
This is a 4-frequency icosahedron. If all 162 vertices are equally distant from the structure's center, the average total of the surface angles at each will be 355 degrees, 33 minutes and 20 seconds, or 355.5556 degrees. Thus, the takeout angle, instead of being concentrated at a few points, with 60 degrees removed from each of 12 vertices, is distributed among many component triangles. Imagine cutting open this system and spreading out its multifaceted net. Each angular gap would be very narrow, averaging 4 degrees. That's where I told you that when I cut things, they're not exactly regular. They seem really weird, and there's a perfect example, 4.444 degrees. If we were to draw this net, the pencil thickness itself would be a nuisance. Supposing each edge is approximately 1 inch, 25 millimeters long, the outermost or widest part of each gap will be less than 1/12 inch or 2 millimeters. In addition to being minuscule, these numbers are typically quite irregular, not at all simple fractions of degrees. Nevertheless, these gaps calculated, say to 6 decimal places, will add up to exactly 720 degrees, no matter how many vertices are in the system or how irregular the distribution. There's got to be some cosmic revelation that occurs when one is able to visualize a 720-degree gap. There must be some cosmic revelation. I am waiting for that revelation. I'm going to eat my meals though in between while I wait. I'm not going to fast. I will not fast. One interesting implication of the principle of angular topology is further demonstrated is further demonstration of the impossibility of the traditional sphere as defined by mathematics, an unreachable planar 360 degrees around every one of its infinite number of vertices. The calculus and spherical trigonometry alike assume that sum of the angles around any assume the sum of the angles around any point on any sphere's surface is always 360 degrees. Fuller goes on to point out that in order to achieve a closed system, there must be a 720 degree takeout distributed throughout the vertices, thereby invalidating this assumption. Wow. The demonstration thus far discloses that the sum of the angles around all the vertices of a sphere will always be 720 degrees or one tetrahedron. Oops, less than the sum of the vertices times 360. Ergo, one basic assumption of the calculus and spherical trigonometry is invalid. In other words, since the 720-degree takeout is a prerequisite to closure, even a sphere has to have infinitesimally less than 360 degrees around any given point in its surface. We are forced to conclude that the infinitesimal times infinite equals 720 degrees. Oh, that just, whatever I had in my brain just fell out. How do we multiply the infinitesimal times the infinite? Wow. There really has to be something to that. Angle types. Finally, knowing the different types of angles in geometry will be helpful. The nomenclature is straightforward. A surface angle is by now familiar, referring to a Comer angle of a polyhedral face, 6-6A. A Comer angle or a Comer angle? I don't know. I've seen all these pictures before, and they're still not making sense. I know. Angle types: surface angle, dihedral angle, central angle, axial angle. So A is a surface angle out here. B is a dihedral angle. This is B, a dihedral angle. That's inside.
Yeah.
Am I seeing that inside?
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, you are.
Okay, good. And then C is a central angle. Oh, shoot.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
C is a central angle.
Huh.
Is that a tetrahedron?
Oh, within it? Yeah.
I don't know. That's a
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is.
okay, but I see the tetrahedron would normally go across here, and he's got it bulging
Oh,
out a
you're
little bit.
saying a number. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying, do you see a tetrahedron and the one below? I was like, I thought you were showing, you're
Yeah.
pointing to C.
Yeah, I don't see I'm not visualizing this guy right here.
No. That you're looking at another one. I was looking at something else.
Yeah, so now D is what we'd call a axial angle.
Mhm.
I see. It comes from the center out.
Comes out from the
Yeah, you can
center.
start
Yeah.
to see, but you can see it from there.
Yeah. and it's an axial angle. Please help me see what we're seeing in number C up here. If I connect right along this straight line, I see a tetrahedron, but when I connect with this line, I poop out here, I'm seeing a pyramid.
I mean, you can see a tetrahedron there.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they do. Central angle.
What's that one called?
This is called a central angle.
Yeah, well,
Oh, I got
it's
it.
going from this, here's
Yeah,
your center point, and
there's
then
this,
the
yeah,
arms from each one.
Yeah.
exactly. So this straight line is the tetrahedron, and this little pivot right here is the center point, just like this is the center point in the cube octahedron.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, that one just below it is the back edge
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, that's
bottom.
exactly right.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for your patience.
You can plug it right in there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Surface angle, dihedral angle. That's the inside angle. Dihedral, central angle, and axial angle. Central angle. Okay, yeah, from the center point. Yeah, from the center point.
Yeah, it's the angle between two of the
Right.
coordinates.
Yeah. It's the angle
So
between the center point of the two coordinates, of the
yeah,
coordinates from the center point. Yeah, good wording, Richard.
so there should be three of those.
There are one, two, oh, there's four. There's four because there's four vertices.
Oh yeah, there's the other one. I see it. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your,
Too bad it's not a 3D
1,
model, so it
2,
could.
3, 4. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
4.
yeah, and that's
Okay.
your fourness there.
Thank you guys for spending this much time. Are we all ready to leave this page?
No, yeah, I mean, I think so, but
There have been other groups I've been in that just whiz past this page, and I think it's pretty important to at least attempt to
it is, it's
visualize.
really important actually, and I'm just thinking about it
Yeah.
in terms of trying to apply it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it in terms of networks. Trying to anyway.
Yeah, now that I look at it, I'm not sure I get the dihedral angle. Because the solid lines,
Huh.
what are the dotted lines? I think the dotted lines are the behind lines. Although he's not consistent, or she's not consistent because she didn't dot these lines. She didn't dot these lines.
Well, it's because of what she's showing us, though.
Well, that really bothers me though. I'm one of these guys that say, look, if you're going to dot the lines on the octahedron, then frickin' dot the line on the tetrahedron. And then so the dotted lines must represent
The back.
the back side of this, like this one, where this one doesn't have dotted lines and this one doesn't have dotted lines. A and B have
Well,
dotted
that's
lines.
because it's the center point that she's showing on that C, right?
Yeah, the center point for C and the center point for D, but
And
still
that's the reason why I think she didn't use.
yeah, it'd been nice if it were different colors. Okay, I'm complete, almost confused, almost not confused. Everybody else good?
Yeah.
Everybody else good? Okay, good. Dihedral angles are the angles between adjacent faces on the inside of the system. Okay, we got that. And an axial angle is the angle between the edge of the polyhedron and the adjacent radius. Yeah, we figured that out. I did that thanks to Richard. He helped me do that one. Are we all ready to leave this page?
Go right ahead.
Okay, everybody's ready?
Yeah.
All right, now let me see here. Where are we? We're 10:46 my time. And we are now flipping over to page.
Yeah, we're probably close
Until-
towards landing time here.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. I just found this. Yeah, we can finish off this page and then we start a new chapter next week, okay?
Cool.
A central angle corresponds to a polyhedral edge. A central angle corresponds to a polyhedral edge and is measured from the exact volumetric center of a system to each end of the edge. I'll conceptualize that later. Central angles provide a way to find exact edge lengths of a given system for any desired radius. See chord factors in Appendix A, trigonometric calculations. Central angles provide an effective way to record relative lengths. For
Hmm.
Remember, an angle is independent of the length of its size. This means that we can list the complete set of edge lengths for a complex polyhedral or geodesic system in terms of the central angles corresponding to each edge. This is why we're calling it angular topology, because it doesn't have any bearing on the actual physical size of the edge. Thank you for letting me just interrupt that whole thought. This means that we can list the complete set of edge lengths for a complex polyhedral or geodesic system in terms of the central angles corresponding to each edge, and then directly calculate exact lengths for any desired radius with the help of a simple trigonometric equation. This process might sound complicated at first, but not if you know trigonometry. No, but it is more expedient than the alternative, which is to specify one set of edge lengths, applying to only one special case system. Data for any different size would then have to be completely recalculated, step by step, from scratch. That's why we call it angular topology. Central angles give us data for general case applicable to any particular realization of the same shape. In architecture, this allows us to build a geodesic dome of any size from one set of central angle calculations. A pocket calculator is all that is required to simply multiply the desired radius by the number of by twice the sine of 1/2 the central angle. See Appendix A, chord factors. This finishes the chapter, but the subject of angular is never far removed from any discussion in synergetics. Well, that finished me. That just didn't finish the chapter. That finished me as well.
Yeah.
And next week we start on vector equilibrium, which she said VE, and Richard, I think you were clever enough to note that VE meant vector equilibrium, which we're studying on Wednesdays. Okay. Richard, how are you feeling and what are your takeaways today?
Well, feeling much better now that I got on the system and from a different angle, 80 miles from where I'm usually viewing it. Different perspective. Yeah, it just I mean, I guess for me, part of my takeaways are always related to the the general kind of takeaway in terms of just using the tetrahedron to be able to capture the idea of the nodes or the corners, the edges, and the faces, and especially when you turn it into a wireframe, you're usually really working with just the corners and the edges. And I like, of course, the simple mathematics of being able to tell how many edges there are given the known number of corners. And I did work out a while back the multiples of your edges as you increase your nodes. So if you go from 4 to 5 to 6, then the edges increase like by, I think, 50%, and then they double, and then it's sort of like 150%, and there's sort of a pattern of that increased number of interconnections. So I'm still trying to, I do what I think even Joe mentioned earlier, is trying to figure out the practicality of knowing the 720 and the 360 and the different kinds of angles that we were just talking about in terms of the die and the axle and so forth. So I need to do more exploration of those kinds of calculations in terms of the practical application. Of course, she just finished closing it for an engineer or somebody to say, well, the practical application is that I can use sort of one set of engineering measures, and I can build you a small dome, or I can build you a massive stadium dome. and speaking of that, I just saw a picture today, I think it was, of this massive, well, it's almost like a toroidal dome in Singapore. It's a huge triangular globe or dome kind of structure. So that's kind of interesting. If those engineers built that off of a simple set of engineering rules, and they can build it almost any size you want, maybe Bucky's idea is that Manhattan might get domed at some point after all.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway. Still exploring. Anne, what's your feeling and takeaway tonight?
Yeah, I felt a lot better after I reminded myself what I tell students to do, right? Because that chapter is so zoomed in that until and unless you remind yourself that, and because a lot of times when we get information given to us, we get disturbed because if we don't get what they're trying to say in the first reading, right? Or when it's first presented to you. And because I have to put in the perspective for students that, you know what, that's just one little bit of a big picture. So you've got to wait a little bit with to move on and get other bits to form a bigger picture, so that this will start to form something that makes sense. Okay, it's just like if you were to pick up, and I literally had to do it for students and parents to see. I just gave them a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, and they don't have the whole big picture of what the puzzle looks like, right? Just give, and I get them to guess what that picture, that little jigsaw is part of, and it was like from a board to wood to tree to, it was actually the river. It was brown, by the way, it was a river, right? But when you look at that one piece, you cannot guess exactly what it is, right? So it's until you start piecing more pieces together that you may not get, and then it forms something bigger, then it starts to look like something. So I'm waiting for that point where today, whatever we talked about is gonna fit into other pieces to form a picture of something. Okay, so that's where I'm at. But the 300, the 60 degrees, moving from 90 degrees to 60-degree angles, I like that. It was not making sense before, and that earlier on when Steve was sharing what you and Steve discussed, that it started to form something, and I was seeing the worlds, right? Or the celestial bodies, which are all like the globes. They are globes. Doesn't matter where they appear, out in the universe, the globes. But this angular topology, it's the one that stuck to me are the takeouts. Because I think the takeout is the space is the same as what is that we've been discussing? Space, right? Space. So people do not see space as a thing, that it has its own parameters. We've been discussing that. And so the thing that came out of topology is the takeouts. It's space that you don't normally take note of. Yeah. But beyond that, next chapter, then hopefully it'll make sense there. And I've got a question though for Richard. Richard, your ex-Malaysian student, is she back in Malaysia yet?
She's not there yet. In fact, she said a little while ago that it looks like she's going to be there in April. And then I heard you say, I'm going to be in Vancouver in April. And I thought, oh gosh. So I hope there's maybe somebody in your school or one of your daughters, just in case you guys have crossed the ocean in different directions.
Sure, there'll be someone around. Definitely, because most of them all know, Kelly Ritchie, and they know I'm on this call, and there's somebody who will take it on. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So Joe, how do you feel, and what is your takeaway today?
I feel actually pretty good. That actually just going through this is it's helpful obviously to keep coming back to the 90 and 60 degree relationship and kind of seeing the difference between the Cartesian system and the highlighting factors of getting people to think differently in mathematics in particular, especially when you're thinking about it, just from the way you've been applying something your whole life. Then to have that system upended, that's kind of it takes time, as Amy alluded to. I thought it was interesting actually how she's able to, and even we started with talking about the idea, the special case and time, and how she ended it with, I'm looking at the one quote, "This process might sound complicated at first, but is more expedient than the alternative, which is specify one set of edge lengths applying to only one special case system." That was actually a really interesting line to me. Because we also talked about different angles and taking different angles and having different perspectives and what that means as well. And so how that is actually more spherical thinking. And thinking in terms like that you could start to see the integrity of both, Buggy's words, but also the mathematics behind it. And so there's there's a lot to that when you start thinking about the implications from only thinking about things from one angle versus multiple angles. So that was one of my major takeaways as well. Actually, Stephen, yeah, I definitely would look forward to seeing that video on dimensionality. I don't know if you were putting that in the chat.
Oh, that's right. I could look for that. My computer distracted me.
I mean, you could send it out with the video, but
I can, and I can also just drop it in an email to all of us
yeah,
because I'm afraid a lot of people don't get those. They don't get those videos. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, I think that's actually going to be pretty interesting for me
I
as
might
well.
be able to find it here before we go.
That would be cool. So yeah, I mean, and just coming back to some of the basic ideas that how the book is actually linking Bucky's concepts overall in a very clear way. You can see the connection with obviously the integrity of words. Now you're seeing the integrity of the mathematics. And the words, I should say, both. And you know, when you have that, that's it's a complete way of thinking. So, yeah, so those are my takeaways. I mean, it's, I really like that special case, looking at it from that perspective, given our discussion on angles. So sorry to interrupt your search there, but Steve, how are you feeling, and what are you taking away from today?
Well, I'm actually feeling pretty good. In fact, I've had a couple of epiphanies that probably won't mean anything to anybody. Um, as I look in, as I look in, as I look out now and I see this sphere that I'm looking at of that I call the universe, and I see the stars up in the sky. If I'm to understand what Bucky said, the only reason why matter manifests is because somewhere a tetrahedron got cut out of it. That's how a structure exists. Any structure is minus 720 degrees. Any structure is minus a tetrahedron. Now, if I go to the Egyptian mythology or mysticism about the all, and the all is the source of everything, and according to the Egyptian mythology, the all leaves a part of itself behind in order to individuate and have an experience. The part they're leaving behind is the tetrahedron. I'm going to look at my desk and say, there's a tetrahedron missing here.
Yeah.
Everywhere I look, there's a tetrahedron missing. Geez, it's boggling my freaking mind.
And it's 4 times 8, 160 is 720.
720. It's that damn 60-degree thing, Richard.
Yeah.
It's that damn
That's
60.
that's part of what I got out of today too, is realizing that when you're doing the tetrahedron, you've got 4 faces.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 times 4 times 180 to
Yeah.
get your 720.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to the 180 by 3 times 60.
Right.
So you get from 3 times 60 to 180, and then 4 times 180 to get to 720. I'm not. Anyway, I'm going to be looking for that tetrahedron for the rest of my life. I think that is the big revelation for me. So I'm really profoundly excited, and I could not find that link. So I will make sure. You guys are all on WhatsApp, right? So I'll put it on WhatsApp. Richard,
Yeah,
you
that'd
got
be
WhatsApp,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
All right, good. I'll put it on WhatsApp, and it is really cool. It's not dark matter. It's time moves differently in those places, which is very interesting. I'm not sure it's consistent with Stephen Wolfram. And if it's not consistent with Stephen Wolfram, I don't think it's true, because I really am convinced Stephen Wolfram's got it pegged. Anyway, you guys are the greatest. And thank you for your patience with me. I think I understand angular topology. If I use angular topology, I can construct or design any shape. And if otherwise, I'm stuck with special case. I've got to build it one stick at a time, measure every piece, measure twice and cut once, or else I'll be cutting everything 3 or 4 times. So thank God for angular topology. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight.
No, that was great, Steve.
Yeah, okay. All righty. You guys are great. See you soon.
Yeah.
Care, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.